Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing with the purple 1830s bell gown. If you're new here, hi, I'm Nikki and I'm obsessed with the 1830s. No, seriously. Last week we made the skirt and the crazy embellishments that were so popular during this era. But a ball gown is not complete without a bodice. So the search began to find a matching bodice to go along with the top. And here are the search results. Nope, nah, yes. Perfect. Let's make this one. I used the cotton viscose blend couture as the main foundation of my bodice. I always advise to wash if possible and or iron your fabrics before cutting out your patterns to get as much of the shrinkage out of it. Did I cut out my front panels on the grain instead of the bias? Yes. Yes, I did. So I had to recut them on the bias. I used tracing paper to transfer my patterns on the fabric. Next I'm cutting out the silk. As you can see, I'm cutting out a way larger version of my front panels. This is to create a gathered bertha at the front. Before basting the two layers together, I basted the middle of my dart first and stitched the darts. And pressing the darts open. Depending on my fabric, I like to use a pressing cloth to prevent any pressing sheen left by the iron. Once the darts were pressed flat, I basted the two layers together while on a pressing hem. Using the form of the pressing hem will help curve the fabric onto each other while taking into account the curve of the body. Then I hand stitched a double gathering stitch at the center front for the bertha. And fiddled endlessly with the pleats to get them right. Once I was happy with them, I basted these down as well. And cut off the excess fabric. Next, I folded the seam allowance up and pinned right on the sewing line. This will account for the extra space the silk needs for pressed open seams. Then I machine basted just next to my stitch line. After that, I cut off all the excess silk. I usually leave a little extra marge to account for the extra room it needs to curve around the couture. And then serged off all the edges. And sew all the panels together. Pressing open seams and the hem and neckline. Using a herringbone stitch, I hand sewed the hem and neckline down. Moving on to the many sleeves. The short sleeve is made out of a circle with a slit as an armhole. I used the silk cotton muslin as the outer fabric and doubled it with a cotton muslin. After the slit was done, I trimmed off the cotton muslin, serged the edges and sewed 2 gathering stitches. Moving on to cutting out the big organza sleeves. These will go over the short sleeves. I made some small cuffs using a technique that will not show a seam on the edge. It's the same technique I used for my cuffs and belt on my 1830s riding habit. Again, I used a pressing ham to account for the curvature of the cuff. Then I made a little pinked ruff that will attach to the cuff. Unfortunately, I ran out of the purple cotton muslin, so I had to make do with some black muslin. Time to put the sleeves in. I have 3 in total, the short silk one, the long organza one, and the silk cap sleeve. Working from the outside in, I started with the cap sleeve. The long organza sleeve, and lastly the short silk one. I sewed all of them in individually. In case I ever have to take something out, I won't have to undo all 3 of them. With so many basting and gathering stitches, I had to take a moment to take them all out. I then pressed the gathering seam allowances flat off the sleeves to reduce the bulk as much as possible. Time for the boning. I like to use 6mm wide spiral boning on all of my seams. For the boning channels, I use a material that is commonly used for the underwire of bras, that I then sew onto the seam allowance using a herringbone stitch. Now for the end result, I'm going to keep you guys a little longer in suspense. You may have noticed that I have not covered any of the closures in this video regarding this dress. And that is because next week on Thursday, July 30th, I will have a video coming out as part of the CocoVid event, where I'll be showing you how I do my back closures on bodices. And also briefly touch on the closures I use for skirts and cuffs. There will be a link in the description down below to the CocoVid program, and please make sure to follow Costume Guide on Instagram for any live updates. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week. Bye!